Learn from a credit union expert, a former general counsel turned CEO, how to level up your leadership, build an unstoppable culture, why people, not quarterly numbers, drive real growth, the importance of emotional intelligence, constant learning, and how to make fearless decisions by surrounding yourself with the best people. I'm thrilled to welcome Brad Bergmooser, the CEO of Financial Plus Credit Union, to PossibLaw. He is a wrestler dad and gym rat who has guided and continues to grow a $1.5 billion credit union through mergers, rebrands, and automation. If you want to sharpen your entrepreneurial edge in the age of AI, stick around. Let's get into it. Welcome, Brad.
Hey, podcast world. Hey, Sal. Real fired up to join and catch up with an old friend.
Yeah, it'll be a little bit of tilting of windmills today, but we'll get some good stuff out of this. So, obviously, today we're going to talk a little bit about how you got where you got and business and kids and a whole bunch of fun stuff. But I like to let the audience get to know you a little bit beyond the CEO. And so I always start these podcasts by asking, Brad, what do you like to do when you're not working?
Let's start with family because I'll back into that answer. So my wife and I, Kim, been married 18 years now. Met in college. We have two sons. Landon is 13. Nolan's 11. When you have an 11 and a 13-year-old, you don't really do much for yourself. So they're wrestlers, and if you know me, I'm the same height standing up as sitting down. So they picked a good sport. So we spend a lot of our time in really stinky, sweaty gyms, but we love every minute of it. Outside of that, my wife and I do make a point to get at least 1 to 2 trips a year just by ourselves to travel and stamp the passport. So, as the kids grow and move on, we'll do a lot more of the traveling. But right now, we're just enjoying being parents.
I love it. And since I do know you, I also know you love kind of being outside. You got a little hillbilly in you, which is always a good thing. And and I think I have a 4.5-year-old daughter. I know the kid thing can be kind of all encompassing in a lot of ways, but I think it's really important to find something outside your kids, outside of your work, that helps you find a little bit of moment of zen and sort of decompress. Do you agree with that?
Absolutely. One hobby I've been able to hang on, and this will date me, but it's been almost 30 years, is I'm still a gym rat. And it's far beyond for physical health now. It's a lot more for mental health. In college I switched to starting to work out in the morning, which when you have a busy schedule, usually if you get up early, that is an easier time to fit stuff in. So I'm still kind of an early riser. I get my time in, and that's when the headphones go on and the world kind of gets shut out, and that's just a great time. And then being in the gym, you focus. So when you focus on something, you don't let all the other things happening in life weigh in. So yeah, that is my time, and I rarely miss it. And it's not to look good in a bathing suit anymore. It's a lot more to get myself kind of calm and collected for whatever the day brings.
I think the gym also, especially like weight lifting and strength training for really busy professionals, entrepreneurs, executives, it's a really nice way to obviously focus on your health, but it is also one of those things which has immediate like feedback. You do it, you feel the benefit, you knock it out, you move on versus kind of abstract ideas. And so the gym has always been really nice for me, even though I probably should do it more. But I hear that. And I think that is actually kind of a thread through a lot of sort of high level executives, entrepreneurs, founders is finding some time to work out. As you have progressed in your career, I know you've done a whole ton of different things. So, what I wanted to start with was go back in time and kind of figure out where everything started. What'd you go to college for?
So undergrad, I actually majored in political science. Didn't really know much about it. Grew up real blue collar background. Proud of that. Most of my family's in the skilled trades. I wish I had the talent they did. My dad is electrical engineering by education. Worked for a power plant for 30 years. So I was very, very much the black sheep. But enjoyed it. But for all of you out there who have liberal arts degrees, that's somewhat of a tough bachelor's to monetize coming out. And so from there, I did what a lot of political science majors do in their junior year. I took the LSAT. Lucky enough, scored really well.
It's funny. Obviously, in the sphere of network that I have, there ends up being a lot of people like you who didn't really like being a lawyer or like going to law school. Shockingly, because apparently that's me too. But I think the universal thread on that is people found something out of it. And I think the people that managed to transition away from being lawyers to something else, they were consistently curious, adaptable, interested in other things, and just wanted to improve. And so, law degree, helpful in those ways, right? And so, I'm curious, you got done with law school. What did you go do?
Another interesting thing. So I don't know where it came from. I had talked about it a lot when I was little that, I wanted to work in politics, perhaps run or whatnot. And I'm quoted all over the place saying no one should say they want to work in politics until they actually go do it. And not to say they won't stay in it forever, but it is a very, very unique animal that you really need to experience before you can opine on whether or not you want to make a career out of it. So I had the ability during my second year in law school to help work on a state Senate campaign for a candidate who lived in the district where I grew up in Monroe, Michigan. He won. So I spent my third year of law school driving between Toledo, Ohio and Lansing, Michigan. And I actually stayed on staff for him for about 2 years. Exciting. I got to work on a lot of things. This was mid 2000s in Michigan. So, we kind of experienced the Great Recession a little bit before everybody else because the auto industry was struggling. So we did a lot of things around trying to spur economic development. So I got to work on a lot of neat things, but it just wasn't, it's one of those things when you don't know until you know. I got into it and great first start. I mean, the interpersonal communication skills you learn, the negotiation skills you learn there has been invaluable to me. As you'll get, the theme I have is I was too young and naive in the moment to recognize how much I'm learning, but now that my beard is graying, I'm actually realizing how lucky I was that each stop in my career, especially those early ones, they were unique and they really taught me a lot.
I think everybody is susceptible to, in the moment, forgetting what they're learning or appreciate what they're in. The grass is always greener, all those kinds of things. And I think remembering to, as you grow in your career, to try to find those moments of gratitude, but also just like, this is good for me, is helpful, right? Because it maybe will help you not make such dumb decisions like you did the last time. So after you did politics, I know you started to get into the credit union world, right?
Yep.
And
So yeah, with that was actually, here you're mixing. I don't believe in work-life balance. I use the term work-life integration. It all happens over a 24-hour period. You don't balance. You don't do one and then the other. They all flow together, including a lot of your professional and personal life decisions. So Kim and I were, in our early mid 20s. We didn't have kids yet, didn't have a mortgage. She had an opportunity with an ad agency in the Chicagoland area. So we decided, let's put everything in a pretty small U-Haul and head across the lake. So we did that. And yeah, shortly thereafter, the Illinois Credit Union League is a trade association for credit unions in Illinois, was looking for, and it's really fortunate, they were looking for an attorney who had some experience in working on legislation. And I was like, oh, well, yeah, believe it or not, that works. Because obviously the trade association for credit unions. So we did a lot of sort of de facto general counsel work for a lot of smaller credit unions that couldn't afford their own legal counsel, in-house legal counsel, as well as we lobbied for credit unions, hence the wanting the legal background with the experience in legislation. So that brought me into credit unions. Spent 6 years there, which to date has been my longest tenure. But I do like to say I had the ability to do 3 different jobs while I was there. I got to work on a lot of compliance matters. So bank compliance seems pretty boring until you realize I did it. I started the week after or the week before Lehman Brothers collapsed.
Oh, wow.
So I got to learn consumer bank compliance when it was all being rewritten. So that was a very, very interesting, scary time. So I worked in compliance. I also worked, they had a for profit subsidiary that did a lot of debit and credit processing. So I kind of learned the business of financial institutions. And then, like I said, I had the opportunity to lobby for credit unions for a couple of years. So that gave me a really expansive kind of view of not just credit unions, but financial services more generically.
Again, as I think we will talk about a lot, it's strange how things connect. You never know exactly what you're going to learn before or after that might help you in the job you're in or get to the job you want to get to. I think being curious and adaptable, as we already spoke about, is really important. I know the credit union thing transitioned over to law firm land, which is how we met, but eventually it ended up becoming general counsel of a pretty large credit union here in the Chicagoland area. And I want to jump to that a little bit because I think um, understanding the differences and how being a general counsel impacts the day to day of something like a credit union, it is interesting. And so, how did you end up becoming the general counsel at Baxter?
Yeah, you and I were together at a decent sized law firm in Chicago. And actually, there was a general counsel of another credit union. Credit unions are decent size industry, but very close knit industry. So there was a general counsel of another credit union who I did work for actually, and he called me. He said, "Hey, Baxter BCU, they were about a little over 2 billion in assets at the time. And that's right around the sweet spot when financial institutions look at onboarding their first in-house counsel because they start to go through matters that they just need someone there to organize and to see them through a lot of stuff. He said BCU was looking for their first in-house counsel. Their CEO, Mike Valentine, mentor of mine, kind of a legend in the industry. So that's one where, all right, well, if Mike calls you, you answer and you go with it.
The general counsel job sounded like a great opportunity and something that doesn't come all the time. I know we started this with you didn't really love being a lawyer necessarily. How was that experience though, as being general counsel?
I think it's tough to there's no way you can describe just being general counsel and have it cross because every business is different. It's all, I was the very first in-house counsel at BCU. And BCU strong sales culture. And so immediately I'm viewed as Brad's here to say no. And my whole job coming in was to acclimate to a really, really strong, fast moving, successful business and have them view me as a business partner that wants to keep driving that business forward. Now, if you have larger companies or you come into a role that has a more established legal department, maybe that hurdle's already been jumped over. So that's what I had, but it was pretty easy to acclimate to it. When I was there, we went through several mergers. We did a lot of technology investments. We did a lot of really, really cool things and it's hard. Like I didn't necessarily love being a lawyer, but I still consider myself one. I'll still list it. I think once a lawyer, always a lawyer. But it let me be a different kind of lawyer. It helped. I was a lawyer that was, buying into a mobile banking company. I was a lawyer that was onboarding a new corporate business partner that had almost 500,000 employees who were potential member customers of the credit union. That was really, really exciting for me. So the GC role may be different from the traditional, you look at law firm role. You're a member of the team. You're not the lawyer hired for a specific engagement.
I think something you said there is really important. It's something I advocate for when I'm doing consulting for legal departments, which is your job as a lawyer Yes, you have to manage risk, obviously, but realistically, you're there to help that business do whatever it was designed to do, sell more widgets, right? Like that's your job. And if you go into it thinking your job is to be the best lawyer you can be, you're going to be in trouble, right? And advocating for the business is part of that. And I love the way you said that of integrating into a successful organization and being part of the team, not a hindrance to the team. And I'm curious from your perspective how putting that business hat on is helpful to a general counsel.
This is where I will give a shout out. Another one of my mentors, actually, the gentleman that hired me at the Illinois Credit Union League, he was the general counsel of the Illinois Credit Union League at the time. His name is Steve Olson. I've totally forgotten the circumstances it was, but I'll never forget the quote. He said, "Brad, nobody cares that you passed a bar exam. Just get the deal done." And, that was, me trying to, legalese things or overanalyze things. And, also the lawyer I clerked for during law school said, "Brad, sometimes you just got to make sure your malpractice insurance is paid up and make a decision because that's what they're hiring you to do." So, all you young or aspiring lawyers out there, nobody cares that you can speak a little Latin. They pay you to get it, to get the job done. But that's what was exciting about being a GC. When we would sit in a room, and you sit in a room with the head of lending, he or she's job is to provide value to the conversation and the business through the lens of where they came up through. Similarly, with your head of marketing, your head of HR, pick your business unit. We were no different than that. We were we as general counsels or anyone in a legal department is expected to come to the table through the lens of, you brought risk management, things like that, but you're there to walk out of the room with the best collective decision for the business.
I think one of the things I always advocate for about the general counsel job is that this isn't always true, but in good situations where you have a smart GC, smart executive team, the general counsel often gets to be in the same room than almost anybody else other than maybe the CEO, right? Because they're part of so many different disparate parts of the organization. And so it can be really interesting beyond your day to day legal acumen if you want it to be. Let's talk a little bit about how you got to Financial Plus. Obviously, you were getting an MBA, Notre Dame, you were the GC of a large Chicago land credit union. How did you end up at Financial Plus?
Uh, no, I don't know. No, so it was, I had graduated, and like I said, we were doing great things at BCU. It was not on my mind. Mike and I had that conversation, and then it kind of entered the stratosphere, but it was hypothetical, or it wasn't a reality per se. And there's a recruiting firm that's in the credit union space, and I had known them, kind of an industry regular, so I had known them for a while. They reached out and said there's a CEO job. Financial Plus was 500 million in assets at the time in Michigan. I know you're from Michigan, and I said, okay, well, I I'm from Michigan, but I will always have two homes. It'll be Michigan and Chicago. I do miss my friends back there. I love Chicago. So it wasn't we're ready to go. But I said, you know what, awesome. I'd love to have a conversation, because again, you never turn down a conversation as a learning experience. So I did, and the recruiting firm really liked my story. The board liked the story. It was like a 4-month process of, you submit. I created like a strategic plan for them. You have a virtual interview, and I kept getting through different gates of the process. And I remember thinking, I would like to interview with the board, because that's a totally different experience than interviewing for a job with one person or even two people. I mean, I sat like this, and 7 board members sat across, everybody with their own binder, just rapid fire. That's just an experience. So like, I want to get to that. And so I kept going through these gating processes, and it hit me. I was like, oh no, not oh no. It was a great thing, but I was like, oh, this might actually happen. Like, we might actually move. I go back to, it wasn't, I don't have a grand professional life plan. I am very much, I see something that could provide a new adventure and to continue to allow me to grow professionally. and I kind of jumped at it. And that's what this was. Obviously, it was a return home. We have family here, so that was a positive. But it was by and large me wanting to take on something new. There's also for all of you out there who are a part of a really great performing team like I was at BCU, I think there's always a sense of kind of internal self-doubt of, am I helping this, or am I just riding coattails? So that was like, I got ideas on strategy and all that. So it was kind of, some of it was also, I got to prove it to myself that I can do it, not just I can ride the coattails of a team that I joined that was already in place doing great things.
You gave yourself the foundation of being a lifelong learner and a willingness to adapt and move forward to even get that opportunity. And so I'm curious, now that you've been in it for a while, you're almost approaching your longest tenured job, right? Yeah,
Yeah,
getting
it'll be
close.
December. December, this will be 6 years.
What are some of the biggest learnings you've had over the last 6 years? You've never been a CEO before. You came into an organization, but you've clearly succeeded. It's grown significantly, and you seem to be enjoying yourself.
Well, I mean, the elephant in the room is I was there about 2 months and had to close all of our branches and send everybody home. There was, man, there was no playbook for that. So I guess the comfort I had, because I was scared out of my mind. Kim and the boys were still in Chicagoland. I was in a hotel room eating like Ziploc sandwiches that they gave me, is that everyone was going through the same thing, and no one, we all have BCP, business continuity plans, but none of them they all contemplate this now, but none of them did that. That was wow. That one, what I learned through all of that was you can't over communicate to your people. I mean, I remember I had really long, goofy hair because I couldn't get my hair cut, but literally recording pictures or videos on my phone, and we would email them out to all employees. And I'd be like, I don't really have an update this week, but I just want you to know I'm here. I'm doing everything I can. We're trying to follow CDC guidelines, which sometimes agree with what state of Michigan's telling us to do. Sometimes they don't. I got to pick one. I don't really know. And also the humility and the vulnerability to just say, guys, I don't know, but we're going to work on it together. We're going to make the best decision and we're going to move forward. I think that's what I learned most through the pandemic. Since then, yeah, it's really solidified what out of all the things we've done. We've had a large merger. We've done a rebrand, which was a lot of fun, but a lot of work. We've launched a whole bunch of new technologies. In my role, you need to be really good at taking the temperature of your people and the company as a whole. And what I mean by that is everyone reacts to stress differently, and your job's going to be stressful. If your job's not stressful, I envy you, but I don't know how those exist. In our job, and that's what I talk about too. The trade-off. You want to be part of a successful, growing company? Great. We're going to have times where things get hairy. You got to embrace it. And in my role, like I said, my biggest learning through all that is you got to know when to let a little steam out of the pot. You got to know when to throttle it down, let everybody take a deep breath. And this wasn't all me. Deanna Wallace is our head of HR, among a lot of other things. She's really the heartbeat of the organization. She has told me, we gotta slow down. So and so is straight. You gotta pump the brakes. And sometimes surround yourself with people smarter than you. That's been my biggest learning. Is it is very, very exciting to be part of a really rapidly growing, successful company. But there are unintended consequences with that, and you've got to monitor those, because you go back to, your people are the most important thing. There will always be another technology you can launch. You can wait a week before go live. It's nothing's going to get harmed by that.
If you want to continue building your entrepreneurial mindset and enjoy our content, we would love for you to subscribe, hit the bell, follow along. You can also find us on our Substack, PossibLaw. Abrazos. I know now in your current role as CEO, one of the things that is incredibly important to you is employee development and training. And it sounds like that stems from some really good mentors in development and training. And a willingness to always be eager to learn and improve. Is that accurate?
Absolutely. We make our living off of quoting somebody else, but then citing it. I don't know who said this, so I can't cite it. I'll give him credit, but as a leader, you have two choices. You can use your people to build a company, or you can use the company to build your people. You always know you're the true successful organizations always find it in the latter. They use the company to build the people, and then when the people go to work and see opportunities for advancement, they see themselves at an organization that will challenge them personally and professionally. All that translates into a way better business. So yeah, you can think I'm altruistic and I really want what's best for my people, which is absolutely true. Or you can think I'm big bad capitalist CEO and all I want is what's best for the bottom line. Either way, you come out to the same strategy, and that's wanting to develop your people. And so yeah, it came from what I was mentored in it under the same idea that it creates a successful company. And that's what I'm getting paid to do. So it's definitely a win-win-win for me.
How have you built that into the culture as you came to, I'll say, a credit union in transition, a company in transition? And so you wanted to stamp your own vision, build the culture there. How did you bring that to your organization when you started?
One major initiative that we still do. Everyone at the credit union is required to have an individual development plan, and IDP is an acronym. An IDP is not a formalized document. I joke it can be written on the back of a restaurant napkin, or it can be a 30-page PDF, or you can send it out and get it published. I don't care, but the individual development plan is what you want out of your career. Your job description, your annual review, that's what the company needs out of you. This is what you need out of the company. I think I said in my first all employee meeting in January of 2020, you're going to spend more than half your adult life working. So you gotta decide what you want to make out of it. And that's where the IDPs come in, is spend time, spend a half hour, spend 3 hours, spend 3 days, looking in the mirror and deciding what do you want out of your professional life. And it's not about writing down the title necessarily. It's more about the journey. My whole professional career has been about the journey, not a destination. But spend some time thinking about what you want, and then meet with your manager and discuss that. And that has been life altering for the organization. I gave a speech in June of 2013. So that was, just about only about 3 years, and we had already had over 100 internal promotions. And I attribute it to those IDPs. Those promotions weren't just given out; they were earned, and they were earned because our people looked inside themselves and tried to decide what they want. They met with their managers, and that allowed them to seek different opportunities in the organization or seek appropriate training to get to that role. In conjunction with that, we instituted a leadership training program. It's like a 6-month kind of like internally driven by our learning and development group. And out of that, they do like a capstone project. And the very first one was we do a walk a mile, where everyone's also required to spend at least an hour to a half a day with somebody who works in a different department than them. And that's twofold. One, you don't know what somebody else is going through until you sit with them. And two, if you're maybe interested in doing something like that, sit with those people. So those were two things that we embedded, that were initiatives that really let the employees know, no, we're serious. We're investing in you. And then also we're expecting you invest in yourself.
It's clear in watching you and listening to you that you really care about this. You're so passionate and you believe in the impact it can have on your organization, obviously, as the leader of it, but also of the people who are there. And it reminds me of something that my wife, Pamela, says all the time, which is, I need to know you to grow you. And it's something I think as you're younger, or even if you're lower on the totem pole, you forget, is that if you don't tell anybody your goals of what you want to do, of where you want to go, it's really difficult for them to just read your mind and decide that, oh, you should go over that way, or you should be perfect for this role. And I love that you created a concrete way for that to happen, right? Where you didn't build an elaborate process of forms and entities. It was just simply like write it down, spend some time, write it down, and convey that to somebody.
Yeah.
Is that something that you have done for your whole career? Where did you come up with that?
We had development plans at BCU. Obviously, each MBA program also has kind of different variations of what they consider, what they focus on a little bit more. And Notre Dame's focus was kind of growing the good leader. So we focused a lot of that through that program. So yeah, I'm a creature. I'm a product of my environment. Very little was my own creation. A lot of it was I just got it somewhere, and then it evolved. So what we do at Financial Plus is a lot of some of the great learnings that I've had where I've worked, or colleagues that I get to spend time with, and then we add our own. Kind of add our own flair to it. Yeah, I agree with what Pamela said. I'd add what I talked about first is that, you the employee, you got to know yourself too before, and I got to know you. You can't grow until you know yourself. Along those lines, we also talk a lot about, and it's not unique to where Financial Plus was historically. A lot of people still think this way, in that your career needs to move straight up through a vertical. So if you go back to where we met, you'd be an associate, you'd be a junior partner, you'd be an income partner, you'd snag some awesome clients, you'd buy in, be an equity partner, and retire. That's not how life works now. And you know what? Good. It shouldn't. So trying to get people to understand that they don't start out as a teller and then a loan processor and then the head of collection, and then they work their way up through one vertical. You don't get the breadth of experience if your ultimate goal is to be at the executive level. You better pray you don't work up through a single vertical, because you don't have the breadth of experience, not necessarily the knowledge, right? I'm not a CPA, I'm not, but you've got to have the life experience of working across different verticals and different areas if you want to get, because the executive level is more about having the 30,000 foot strategic view than it is knowing the ins and outs of what your respective departments do. If that's the road, you're prone to kind of micromanaging, which is tough. So we talk a lot about the fact that your career over the X number of years you're going to be in it, it's going to move up, it's going to move over. You know what? It might even seemingly move down or back, but so long as it's different, you're growing and you're in a good spot.
I've always believed multidisciplinary experience is a superpower that too many people fail to gather for whatever reason. Sometimes it's intentional, sometimes it's not, right? But at the end of the day, that breadth of experience can lead to so many different ideas in how you do your job or how you solve a problem that other people just would never see, because it's about information. I'm curious for you, how do you as a senior leader identify talent within your organization that is showing you what you need for them to grow into management positions or other roles?
I think, every leader is different. What I've had to train myself, I think kind of humans are, we kind of naturally go to maybe how we act. And then we try to, if we see that mirror, that's good. So I always try to stay away from, you have to make the cognizant effort to do it. I've always tried to stay away from kind of personality traits. And let me get to what that is. Like, there are amazing introverted leaders. I am not an introvert. There are amazing leaders who are really, really good at one-on-one conversations. I'm not as good as that as I am, give me a microphone and 500 people, and I'm super comfortable. So you can't necessarily create in your mind what a great executive is. You need to view the person and see if what they do within their comfort zone excels. I do have a couple kind of baseline things that you'll be successful at Financial Plus in, and that's initiative and kind of and work ethic. Work ethic isn't hours in a day. It's seeing a project through. I say this to my sons all the time, especially over the winter when they're shoveling the driveway. I'll walk out there and look at it and ask, is this something you're proud of? So you always, everything somebody does, they ask themselves, and is this something I'm going to put my name on? Am I proud of that? And then they show the people that show the initiative to want more. That those are kind of a couple core attributes I look at, but I'm really, really proud. So our executive team, it took a few years to kind of finalize what the best executive team that Financial Plus needed. And there's 6 of us. We're all very, very different, but there are some core tenets of, you know, our, like I said, work ethic, initiative, and then another one is humility. Um, that's one that you have to have. You've got to know. And I go back. I mean, there were several people who have recorded this. If you're the smartest person in the room, find a different room. You should know you're never the smartest person in the room, especially at the CEO level. That is not that is quite the opposite of your job. Your job is to surround yourself with people way smarter than you, make sure they have the resources to do what they do best, and then create the org structure in a way that maximizes all of that. So yeah, humility, kind of a strong work ethic, pride in what you do, and the initiative to always want more. And that's from taking on something new to continued learning. I'll forever be a lifelong learner. I hope I'm not paying a Institute of Higher Education for another degree. I don't want one of those, but I'm always going to continue learning. So kind of always that appetite to know that even until the day you retire, you're learning something. So there's a few kind of core traits that I think are great for those who kind of want to aspire to senior or executive level leadership.
I think those are great guideposts for anyone, whether you're new and working your way up in an organization or you are at the top of the organization and you're trying to improve it. And I think in our age of, how do I put this? A lot of people are frustrated, right? And young people are frustrated about job opportunities or where they can go. But I think at the end of the day, I just keep telling people who ask, agency, your own agency of what you do, the way you talk about it is pride of work or work ethic, is the thing you can control. And if you can control that and you keep working forward, good things will come. You just have to be patient. It's difficult, but you have to be patient. And so it's good to hear organizations like yours also value those kinds of things for people out there looking for the next opportunity.
Yeah, I agree. I agree, but I also think it's somewhat of a red herring. Every generation thinks the generation after them is the laziest generation that's ever lived. That's never going to change. Every generation is going to be different than the one that preceded it. Get over it. Both sides, right? So I don't care what, boomer, millennial, X, Z, Landon. One son is alpha, and my youngest son, I don't know what that one is. Every generation is gonna complain about the other one. And you bring up a great point. Just do good work. And you know what? Every generation should challenge the norms of the one before it. There's nothing wrong with that. We're still, it's 5 years ago, but we're still in a weird kind of heightened stress around it because the pandemic really drove when you go into like the remote work idea. We'll get through it. Every generation gets through the growing pains of handing off corporate America to the next generation. And that's where we are, right? You're seeing and especially in my industry in financial services, the giant wave of retirements from, your boomers to even some of your Gen X's are starting to experience it. Now, millennials are in the C-suite, and you're seeing a lot of Gen Z trying to push their way into leadership. We're also at a big sea change there. So it kind of adds fuel to that fire, but we've gotten through it. Every other time we'll get through it. To your point, just do good work.
It also brings up something you mentioned earlier, this idea of work-life balance, or what you called work-life integration. I've always thought this idea of how you work or why you work is a little bit of a red herring. It's this generation, oh, I walked through 7 feet of snow to school every morning and you don't know what it is, you don't work hard, right? But externally, people look and, family of mine, right? Say, "Oh, you work a lot." And I'm like, "Well, I guess, but I enjoy what I do. And more importantly, I've integrated it into my life. So if I want to spend time with my daughter, I go spend time with my daughter, right? If I want to work and it's 8 p.m. and she's asleep, that's fine. That's an okay thing for me to do." How did you arrive at your own version of what you call workplace integration that worked for you?
It's what works for me, and then I'll kind of touch on where the journey we're on at Financial Plus. And this is also a benefit of me having the ability to work in um, different environments. I joked when we were in client services at the law firm that if you're billing hours, the partner doesn't care when you're billing the if you're waking up at midnight to do it, or you're doing it at 2 in the afternoon, and the client doesn't care if it's good work and it's delivered in a timely manner. A billable hour is a billable hour. So I had that experience. I've had experiences in other jobs where it is very much you need to be seen from 9 to 5 or 8 to 6 or 7 to 7. So where I am now, and kind of coming, we're 5 years into the brave new world, kind of being locked down to finding what is the mix. For me, it is very much that it is a mix, and everybody's job is different. So mine, for example, when I love being in the office, my role in the office, to provide value, though, is to just be present and be in meetings and be communicating and be talking. So in a certain sense, I don't get anything done. So I also enjoy the 1 day or 2 days, if I got stuff, to be able to be here at home. And yeah, the phone still rings and all that, but I'm not in the environment where I have to get up and see people. I'm able to get more done. I'm just integrating my life with what needs to get done. And sometimes there are different environments with that. And that's where you see a lot of the folks, and I'm not even going to say young or old, saying it's both at our shop, who are resistant to being back in the office. They say, "What, I'm more productive," because maybe their role is more prone to the more isolated stuff, where they don't necessarily, to get their job done, need to interact with others. I get it. On the other side, I will always be a proponent of the value of the conversations that happen as you walk in and walk out of a meeting. A lot gets done in those times. So I think, it's incumbent on me and people in my position to find for the organization. There's no secret recipe for it. It's going to be a little bit different for everybody, but every organization has to find where their sweet spot is of allowing people to have the freedom to, my commute's a half hour. There's an hour out of my day, to give them the freedom to integrate their personal life where they can still be productive. And that could be location or hours, with not wanting to lose any of the creativity, culture building, you pick, that happens when humans are interacting with each other, not through a screen. There is a mix there. I'm not going to say what it is because it's different for everyone, but I do believe it's a mix. For larger companies, nationwide sales teams, they come in once a year to hang out. Other than that, they're meeting with clients. That's their job. Companies like ours that do a little bit of everything, and we have physical branches. Those people have to be in every day. You got to find the mix that finds a sweet spot of productivity while giving, and not giving, but allowing your workforce to experience what they expect now, especially coming out of COVID. And that is the ability to have more flexibility to, be a dad or a brother or sister, husband, wife, you pick.
What I heard out of that was a willingness to actually evaluate what works versus prescribe what once worked before or what might be now, right? And I think too much of this return to office or remote work conversation is two sides yelling at each other of, it has to be the way it was, or no, this is the only way to do it, instead of just having a conversation and figuring out there's good and bad in both, and actually just good and good in both, right? And it's again a testament to you and how you run your organization that you're willing to make that effort, because it is difficult. You could just pick something and be done with it. Instead, you're trying to find value in what works for each individual and within your company.
We don't have 3 days, so I am not going to talk politics, but there is a lot of similarities between the political landscape in America over the past several years and the fight of return to work. And that's the idea that both sides are so polarizing. They're so mad at each other. The pendulum swings so far. We need to realize there is the true balance lies there in the middle. So that's the end of my soapbox from politics, but there's a lot of similarities there that, yeah, you got to stop yelling at each other when you talk about what's best for, your work-life integration, return to work, whatever we're calling it.
Yeah, it's basic. It's the basic tenet, which is like a lot of people don't want to do the hard work of anything. And sometimes having a discussion, especially an uncomfortable discussion, is hard work.
Yeah.
And if you're willing to go through it and do it, usually you get something good out of it. But right now, a lot of people don't seem to want to listen, and it's problematic. So,
Mm-hmm.
regardless, I'd love our audience to better understand what credit unions are, what's their role in the financial universe, right? Because I think most people are familiar with their neighborhood bank, or I guess the giant banks, at least in the United States and abroad. Where does a credit union fall in?
So there was a study, and it was a few years ago now, but what the result was that just about every person knows when you say credit union, yeah, that they've heard of a credit union. So they know of credit unions, but there's two things they don't know. One, they think it's, the membership is really restricted, so they don't think they can join one. Or two, they don't think the products, they don't understand the products and services. So to dispel both of those things, wherever you live, there are probably 5 dozen credit unions you could join tomorrow. The membership requirements are not stringent. Most credit unions have switched to a community base, like Financial Plus. If you live, work, or worship in the state of Michigan, you can be a member. So there's very, very large, expansive membership capabilities there. The second one is when you talk about what's a credit union, where do we fit in the space? This is where I say everything a bank does, we do. Everything Chase does, we do. Everything your local community bank does, we do. We might even do more. At $1.5 billion in assets, Financial Plus has, our commercial loan portfolios, a couple $100 million, car loans, home loans. We have a buy now, pay later product. We have a payday alternative product. We have a full suite of digital capabilities. There is nothing. We provide everything from a product and services standpoint that you pick your money center bank provides. The difference is in our corporate structure, which doesn't, it does impact we call them members, because when you join a credit union, you are an owner. So you're a shareholder in the organization. So we call them members. Members are our customers. The products and services day in, day out, you don't see the difference necessarily. Our corporate structure is we are not for profit, which means we don't have shareholders. So if you were to divide the profits, and I'm a little bit unique in our spaces, I think profit's a good word because of where it goes. And there's only two places profits go at a credit union. It goes back to the members or the customers in better investments in products and services, or higher or lower rates in loans or savings. And then the other place, which is like we talked about earlier, my pride and joy, it goes back to the organization to develop the employees. There is no third bucket that my counterparts running banks have, and that is your shareholder. I don't give out money in dividends to shareholders who only have a vested interest in how economically successful an organization is from quarter to quarter. I get to play the long game, which that's why I absolutely love. I love the structure. Why I'm in this industry and will be for the rest of my career is I get to have the best of both worlds. I get to drive. The capitalist in me gets to drive for a financially successful company, yet I don't have shareholders. I can set a 5-year strategic plan that involves an overinvestment in employee development and overinvestment in the communities we serve. We serve, Flint and Saginaw areas in mid-Michigan, which have been hit hard over the past several decades, we can set really, really aggressive, expensive goals around supporting our communities because of how we're, by the simple fact of how we're structured.
It's interesting to hear all that because even I didn't totally understand how expansive credit union membership could be, right? And I also think it's really important for people to hear that profits aren't bad, right? Like at the end of the day, it's always how companies operate and what they do for them. But credit unions specifically, the idea that there is no third party shareholder taking money out of the business, it's literally all staying there for the benefit of the end user, the consumer, customer, the member, is really important. How does that impact your offerings for entrepreneurs or small business owners, which I know are part of our audience? Do you offer things like small business loans, SBA loans? Do you do those kinds of things?
All of the above. So credit unions historically, and I'm saying historically 50s, 60s, 70s, a lot of credit unions started as, membership was more limited. So we started serving the workers at the Chevy facility in Flint, 73, 4 years ago now. So you had to work there to be a member. Like I said, then 20 some years ago, we converted to a community charter. So we serve everyone who lives in a certain area. But that was more restricted. And so they were founded to just be a deposit and lending source for those employees. So what I'm getting at is those employees, not a lot of them had side gigs. So we were later to the game in terms of business services. But we're ramping up and we're filling a very, very, very important void. So when you see and there's a lot of it, especially in the Midwest, when you look at a lot of your community bank and regional bank consolidation, and all of those, regional banks are now consolidating, getting bigger and bigger. There's the same amount of work you got to do for a $50 million business loan than you do a $5 million business loan. So those big entities, they can go after the $500 million deals and focus less on your 500,000 to $5 million loans. Well, you know who those loans are for? That's for your small businesses. And I always say too, credit unions are giant hypocrites if they say we're here for our community when they don't serve, which is undeniably the lifeblood of every community, and that's your small business. So by the fact that you're seeing consolidation on the bank side, they're pulling out of that space, and there's still a great need for it. So credit unions over the past X number of years have built up great commercial teams who are able to service on the deposit and loan side of that. You go back to my history, and again, being really, really fortunate to spend my time at the law firm. I worked with a lot of the regional banks in the Chicagoland area on commercial lending. So I saw the benefit of it. I wasn't scared of underwriting it. I understood it. So we had a great commercial lending team when I got to Financial Plus. We've been able to build on that, and part of it's been benefiting from me experiencing it when I was at the law firm. So yeah, we offer a full suite of we have SBA backed loans. We have a lot of commercial real estate loans. We do some C&I stuff. Yeah, all over the map, really. And I'm excited about that because, like I said, it drives our small businesses, drive our communities.
If I'm in Illinois and I want a commercial loan for my small business, I still have to meet the membership requirements, the community requirements of your credit union, correct?
Yeah, every state law is a little bit different, but by and large, if you as a small business owner qualify for membership, your business does.
Brad, it's been a fascinating conversation that I'm sure we'll do again. I was going to ask you if you had a nugget that you wanted to pass along to the audience as a closer, and then you just said people are what matter. It's a pretty good nugget, but do you have anything else that you can pass along for the audience?
Yeah, again, no one's getting a statue put up. I mean, maybe somebody here is. That's awesome for you. No one's I'm not getting a statue. The legacy I will leave. The 2 days after I retire, very few people are going to remember my name, but my legacy will be in the people that I had the opportunity to work with that have moved on to other things and lead their own organizations. So you got to go back to the people. Finally, I will never say I love my job. You should love your family, love your friends, love your hobbies. What you should with your job, though, is go to a place where you find fulfillment, you find professional fulfillment, you find personal relationships that are fulfilling, you find the challenges you want and you need, because you're going to spend you're by and large, people, when you walk up to somebody and ask them, what do you do? They talk about their profession. 99 times out of 100, they talk about their profession. So, you owe it to yourself. Life's too short. Go find what you enjoy, and from a professional sense, what you want to be defined by.
It's a great way to close this out, Brad. Thank you so much for coming on. Super excited to have you on the next time.
Awesome. Thank you.